What's up, Crowdfunding Nation? Salvador Briggman here, the host of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. And let me ask you a question. If you could speak to a founder who was successful and able to do over 3 million in sales, selling products online, would you be curious about what they said led to their success? Because if you are, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about on today's podcast episode. I brought on a founder who got started in the hedge fund industry living in New York City and then transitioned, decided that he didn't want to sell his soul. He wanted to do something of his own. And he decided to start selling products online. And this specifically is for hand-blown glassware, for stemware and wines and different beverages in that way. He's had over 24 Michelin star and top restaurants carry his products and been able to do over 3 million in revenue. In addition, crowdfunding or Kickstarter was a part of his story as well when it came to his bootstrapping days in getting this business off the ground. And he's come on the podcast not only to share some of the lessons of his success, but also what worked well for him. Some of those difficult challenges he had to navigate in growing from finance to e-commerce and now also getting into the software realm and launching his own software tool when it comes to his business. So I always say, Kickstarter crowdfunding, it's really an element in your path. And this can be the jumpstart of a whole new career, of a whole new brand, and it can extend years into the future. I've said that over the last 500 podcast episodes, but this has a profound impact on what's going to happen next in the next stage or the next season of your life. So by listening to this episode, number one, you're going to take away some of the lessons from this journey when it comes to his hustle, his vision, the resourcefulness he's had to have in order to grow the company from 0 to 3 million in revenue, some of the lessons that he's learned about e-commerce, about selling products online, some of the advice he would have for other people who want to discover a winning product that you can also sell, and how to scale a brand from nothing to 15,000 plus wine lovers when it comes to his following, and some of those actionable lessons, right, when it comes to validating an idea, operating lean, and also going from crowdfunding campaign into a full-fledged plan. And as well, what's so cool about this is being able to achieve that Forbes 30 under 30 recipient status, I think is another kind of cream on the crop when it comes to that. So you're going to discover a lot in today's episode, and it's going to be focused a little bit more on e-commerce than crowdfunding, but I do think you're going to take away a lot of important lessons. One of the things you'll know, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, is I like to have on lots of different guests from many different perspectives, from many different walks of life, areas of the globe. Like we have people even from China, we have people from Europe, from Australia that are all coming on the show and telling what worked for them. And we kind of unite under that banner of wanting to impact the world for the positive, of wanting to do something bigger than ourselves. And I think more importantly, getting to a point in our life where we feel good and we enjoy the work we're doing, turning that passion into profit. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you do want to learn more about how to launch your own Kickstarter campaign, go and check out the link at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. That link will take you to a free course that you can join, warming you up to not only the best practices, but also some of the tricks of the trade that happen behind the scenes in order to get funding and backers to your campaign at that link, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Again, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. And I'll include that link in the description as well. But without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode and discover how this entrepreneur or founder was able to raise over 3 million in revenue, starting with nothing. And it's coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we are speaking with a founder and creator who launched a successful Kickstarter campaign and has parlayed that into a growing e-commerce company and also now an AI software tool. This individual has really led a direct-to-consumer hand-blown glassware company with a really unique twist on that and is in a lot of really great places when it comes to that brand with Michelin star and top restaurants. We are lucky enough to speak with David. David, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Definitely. So maybe we can kind of get started. You can fill in some gaps in that introduction. What were you doing before you really got started with selling products online? What were you doing before this?
I worked at a hedge fund in New York City for about 4 years. I was in finance.
Got it. And a lot of people hear hedge funds in New York City and they think really cushy, right? Wall Street job. Most people, I think, would think you'd be crazy, right, to jump ship there and to start your own thing. What kind of led to that decision?
I don't know if cushy is the word people would use for a hedge fund job, but it was definitely it was a well compensated kind of job. I think a couple things happened. I mean, in 2018, the markets just imploded, like kind of near the end of the year, and so our fund kind of, uh, wasn't doing super well that year, and I wasn't really loving what I was doing, and then the conversation wasn't there anymore. And then at the same time, I had the idea for Salm AI, this software company that you mentioned. So so yeah, I decided to get one more bonus in December, and then I just started coding my own software company. So
Okay.
that was end of 2019.
And where does Glass.vin fit into the picture here?
Yeah, so a couple of months into that, it was like I think February of 2020. Sorry, February of 2019. So I quit my job end of 2018. February of 2019. I'm like, the software company is going to take a few years to like get off the ground, because I have to build the product, find product market fit, all that stuff. And yeah, like I went from making decent like annual salary to not making anything. So I'm like, I need something that's going to be a little faster than software to to basically bring some money in. Actually, it reminds me of I think like Airbnb. The guys did this. Like they started selling cereals or whatever for or Obama's or something. I think to just bring some money in. That was kind of the initial idea of the glassware. And my first idea wasn't to like start a the number one hand blown wine glass brand in the U.S. It was really just to be like, okay, can I just buy something and then sell it at a higher price? And I had some ideas to do that because I knew a decent amount about this market, the hand blown wine glass market. So yeah, my first idea was just to like import some glasses from Europe and then resell them at a profit. But then I realized that I should just make my own brand because that's really where the long-term value is.
Why did you decide to focus on stemware and glassware specifically?
It's that it specifically, I love wine, so I knew that market very well, so I didn't have to like do I didn't have to ask around and see what people's needs are. Like I knew, I think it's YC or something. They say like the best companies are built by founders who just build something for themselves. Like I basically made this product for myself. If you like wine, you only drink out of these hand blown wine glasses, and all of them were like $80 a glass at the time, and I don't want to. I didn't. I didn't have the money then, nor did I want to spend $80. I still don't want to spend $80 a glass. And I'm just like, that's just too expensive. And because it's $80, only a few people in the world are drinking out of it. But what we did was we were just like, okay, let's cut that price in half, $40. Now more people can drink out of hand blown wine glasses. So that's a huge TAM expansion as well as just great revenue per customer.
So you decide to start your own company, and you've kind of gone through a career transition there when it comes to that. What was the discussion like, or did you have any people around you who had any thoughts on that? Like, did your parents, for example, did they approve of that? Like, what was kind of like the discussion around you when it came to making that decision?
My dad is just generally very supportive of everything I do. My mother is less supportive, I would say. I mean, she's a great person. I think she's awesome, but she's more like traditionalist, like, this is like, oh, like why would you give up this job that was like, doing all this income, and I'm like, well, because I'm not doing that anymore. Like the funds like just fund went down. Um, and she's like, well, why don't you just go to another fund? I'm like, well, it takes time to like get there. So, yeah, so there was definitely a little bit more pushback from my mother. And also it's funny, like even after the businesses started like doing well and, it was clear the trajectory was like very good. And it's like, you can paint a picture where like, I'm going to do much better in doing my own business versus working at a hedge fund. My mom was still like, I feel like she needs to see like my income statement before she actually, goes along with it. In terms of
Yeah,
like,
like every mom.
I would say they were, obviously like I think my friends believed in the like that I could do this.
Mhm.
With that said, I think it's a very rare thing among my friend circle to go this route. So I don't think they fully understood the.
Yeah, I mean, we think like investment, we think, people that are analyzing risk, and we think a lot of like risk averse kind of nature. But being, doing your own thing is really risky. Would you consider yourself to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, an investor? How do you view yourself?
Oh, definitely not an investor. Like Actually, this reminds me of like the Elon Musk getting like mad because like he went on his own Wikipedia page and someone called him an investor, and he's like, I don't spend any time investing. Like I spend literally 0.1% of my time investing. I just like buy like QQQ or whatever, just like indices. Absolutely hate investing, which is fun, which is I guess why I left the investing industry. And then entrepreneur, founder, I don't see a huge distinction between those. So yeah, I mean, I'm also I'm also like the customer service agent when I need to be, so
Mm. In really thinking about this and, as the story started to unfold, was there one moment where you're like, aha, like this was the right path, this is the right decision? Or was there one moment that you felt really proud having started Glass.vin? Was there any moments that stand out to you or even customer interactions?
I mean, like just very, very simply, like we went from obviously like zero revenue to like I don't know what is it like millions and millions of dollars of revenue over the 4 or 5 years. So every year, it's been growing at a nice healthy clip, and so every year you're like, oh wow, like I did last year was great. Last year was so great, and this year I'm doing even better. So that's a really nice place to be. Even like a few years ago when like the actual like dollar amount wasn't a huge amount of money, but just like seeing it grow every year is a really nice feeling. Aside from that, just like the one like break that we had in 2020, I think we sold something like $20,000 of glassware in a day because it got discovered on this forum. That was really like that was our real Kickstarter, using the Kickstarter term, was in
Hmm.
2020. It wasn't a Kickstarter that people just went on my website and bought it. That was obviously a really, really nice win. And then, like the software also went through that kind of phase when I went from zero to like 400K to like 800K. Like that's like a really nice feeling. Those are just kind of the more like
Highlights. Yeah.
monetary highlights. But obviously, like there's some major like customer focused kind of highlights too. Like we started sponsoring La Palais, which is like the number one Burgundy festival in the US, which means it's number one like wine festival in the US, frankly. And we're the main sponsor of that. And I got tickets to go to this gala, and the gala is like $1,600 a person. And as part of sponsorship, like I would never buy that for myself, but being there and then like them saying, "Oh, the glassware is by Glasvin," and everyone looks at me like, that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Super
many
cool.
such. Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. And, I think as well, the fact that that comes from just kind of like an idea in your head and then you work hard and you sort of bring that into the real world, that's really cool. And from what I understand as well, crowdfunding has been a part of your journey. It looks like you launched a campaign here on Kickstarter, coming out of New York. You did around 34K with your Kickstarter campaign back in 2023. Out of curiosity, what was your experience like when it came to Kickstarter and what you took away from that campaign?
Yeah, so I've always been curious about Kickstarters. I actually was kind of go thinking about doing it when I first launched, but I stayed away from it because our MSRP of our product was about $40 a glass, like I said. And I was looking at other comparisons, and it just felt like it was a little too like a little too expensive for the Kickstarter market. So what I did was I waited until we introduced our entry level hand blown wine glass, which at the time I think was what the MSRP was like $48 for two, so like $24 per glass. And that felt like a much better entry point into like that Kickstarter market. Um, and I looked at some other examples. Like I think the number one example is Norlin, which is like a very, very similar company as us, very similar MSRP. Um, and that was kind of like what I was trying to emulate. Norlin is a whiskey
Hmm.
glass. I think it might be hand blown as well, actually, and it's also made in China and all this stuff. So um, I think we ended up with, yeah, like you said, like 30, $40,000 of sales, which is obviously not very much, but I believe for wine glasses that was the number one or two wine glass Kickstarter in the history of Kickstarter.
What was there any lessons or tips that you learned from running that campaign, whether it's focusing on, having good creative or any sort of takeaways from doing that campaign that you feel like you can pass on?
I would say, and obviously this is incorrect. In like, some people are able to literally use Kickstarter as like their primary strategy. But I would say like, like I would say Kickstarter should just be like one of your strategies to get into the market. Also, I don't think people like, this is my general view. Like, I don't think you should actually rely on Kickstarter as a funding source. Um, like I think there's other ways to fund things than Kickstarter that are probably better. But it's definitely like a good way, especially if you hit the algorithm, to kind of expand your like, it's basically like free marketing, right? So basically what we did was we just told all our customers to like go shop this on Kickstarter's website. And so we got a lot of inflow into Kickstarter's website just organically, just through my own mailing list, who would have otherwise shopped on my website. And the Kickstarter would recognize that and be like, oh, like a lot of people are buying this product, so like, it goes up in the ranks and it'll show up more often, and then
Hmm.
that'll drive some organic traffic. With that said, I don't want to pretend like I really knew what I was doing, and I still don't know what I'm really doing, because I think of the 40K, like probably 25% of that was like real, like new net customers. The other 75% were my existing customers. They would have just bought that on my website anyway. So I got some interesting new customers through Kickstarter, but it wasn't like a blowaway or anything. Note that we didn't do any like marketing or any ads or stuff like that. I know typically, like, if you want a successful Kickstarter campaign, you want to be, putting a lot of like Google ads and stuff into it. And I tried a little bit, but I didn't figure it out. I'm not a whiz at digital marketing or anything like that. So and then we don't use that as a major channel to gain customers. So
So if you were kind of thinking about that experience and looking back, is there anything you would have had or done differently to have a bigger outcome, you would say?
I think the main thing that you should be doing is like just figuring out the whole ads thing. Also, like, I think it's probably not a bad idea to, like, because there's some like Kickstarter like consulting companies. I'm sure a lot of them are not very very good, but there's probably some that are good, and like they can probably give you some advice, because yeah, like I was kind of in there. I did talk to some of those companies, and they're like, the amount that they charged was just a little too high, I thought. But I don't know, maybe if you find someone who has a little bit of experience that can guide you through it, because I didn't really have that, and that probably resulted in suboptimal results.
So you would say number one, it's a good idea probably to have a bit of a list, right? And kind of bring some of your crowd to the platform. And number two would be mindful of digital marketing, right? And running things maybe like ads. And then number three would be kind of putting it into scope and maybe learning a bit about the process is what I'm taking away.
Yeah, and like I don't know if any of that is good advice, but like that's just my experience. And also, like blowing a ton of money on ads is often not the right solution to a startup. You want to ideally you want to find organic product market fit. That's much more powerful than just driving people to the platform through ads. So yeah, I mean, it really depends on if this is just like an add-on, like mine was like an add-on, versus this is like your first product. Like, if you're still trying to find product market fit, I would guess that this is like just a general rule, not like a Kickstarter rule. Like, a general rule is just like, try to find organic customers, don't try to find paid customers.
One of the differences I'd say between doing something like crowdfunding and more of like a direct to consumer e-commerce play is shipping time, right? So like people that are backing campaigns, they're getting the product a couple of months later versus with e-commerce, they're getting it very quickly. Um, would you say there are any other major differences between crowdfunding and traditional e-commerce?
I think the customer segment is different, which is partly why like we didn't want to do crowdfunding for like the first product, because that customer is meant to be like a very high end, like wine loving kind of customer. And comparatively, like I think there's a lot of beer stuff on Kickstarter, because that is actually I think the overlap of like craft beer lovers, that are buying like, $5 a can like craft beer, or $7 a can craft beer, with people that are like that love supporting Kickstarter. By the way, I think like something like 70% of Kickstarter customers have made multiple purchases, not just one purchase. So, there is like that crowdfunding market. Um, Obviously, like my customers are not really like, I don't think they're typically, I think a lot of them, I think I drove a lot of traffic to Kickstarter. They're probably like first time Kickstarter buyers. So yeah, I would definitely think about that, like whether or not your product is overlaps well with like the Kickstarter market.
And in terms of those backers, like, is it different to then deliver the product over time versus, very quickly out of the warehouse? Do you remember any kind of messages you got after you delivered that product?
I don't think there was a major difference. I mean, because we pre-sell stuff too on our website, and you would get it in like a few months. Um, Honestly, like for where we were at, like we didn't even need to pre-sell it, and I think we basically like already made the product, and then we just like quote unquote pre-sold it like a couple months in advance. But really, like the product was already made, it was already on the ships, and so like we financed the production and stuff separately. I think there was an interesting point where like there were some like international customers, and we were able to ship those directly from the factory versus like importing into the US and then re-exporting it. So there were some minor benefits to that.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think the Kickstarter kind of customer is a little bit more like chill about this kind of stuff. Like typically you go on our website, you buy it, you expect it to arrive in like 2 days. Like we're basically competing against Amazon, in our normal business. Whereas the Kickstarter customers very, very lax. Like, it's like bring it, it'll come when it comes. So
Right, right. So I'd love to, kind of dive a bit into the one topic you mentioned, which is this idea of doing pre-orders, right, on your own website. And I
mm,
think that pre-orders is really great because you can kind of gauge demand, right? You can see whether or not a product is hot, and also gives you a little bit more leeway, right, when it comes to delivering that. What's been your experience like doing pre-orders when it comes to your products here on your site?
yeah, so we're not like, first of all, we're not like a funded company. Like the only person who is unhappy if we like undersell or overproduce or underproduce and oversell or whatever, like is me. And I'm very like, I run my company in a very relaxed manner on these things. So like, yeah, if we overproduce, then we'll just have it in inventory for like 3 years or whatever. Like that's a acceptable outcome for me. Also, if we underproduce, then we'll just produce more and we'll take pre-orders, for example. So overall, I try not to do pre-orders. I understand the value of like, judging demand and things like that. But the best way to judge demand is actually just like to have the product. And, we have a lot of sales data and stuff. So we have ideas of like how popular a product is going to be.
Hmm.
Yeah, I honestly, I try not to do pre-orders because it's just like extra work. And I honestly don't like seeing my Shopify site with a ton of like unfulfilled orders. Like it kind of makes me unhappy.
Irks you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I tell my PR, and like my PR is like, oh, like what products are coming out and all this stuff. I'm like, no, 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 like I don't want to create extra stress. Just like wait until the product hits my website, then you can start advertising it. Like I don't want
Okay.
like to like preempt all this stuff, and then maybe the product like doesn't deliver properly or something's wrong with it, and I have to like make everyone unhappy. So
Right. This is the stress element for sure.
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately.
So one question here. I mean, I think a big topic is selecting the winning product, right? And really having something that has legs, as they say, kind of in the wine territory, and really something that's going to take off. Have you gained any insight into that when it comes to products that are like winning or really doing well? Is it the design? Is it the functionality? Is it the way you present it when it comes to the creative? What do you feel like really goes into a winning product from your example?
Oh, there's so many things to consider here, but the first one is what I said earlier, is make a product for yourself, right? Like if you're buying your own product, then at least you have one customer there. You're probably not the only human on earth that wants that, So I mean, this is like my software company. Like I made the software company and I wasn't even using it myself. Which is when I realized like there's actually no product market fit here. So then we switched to B2B and then we found the product market fit there. So that's a really obvious one. The other one is like I think having a consumable product is better. Like wine glasses break, and so you just have recurring revenue. I love recurring revenue, especially in the kind of business that I run, which is a more relaxed kind of like I just want to have, it's a bit of a lifestyle business, so recurring revenue is great from that perspective. Having something where there's just organic virality is excellent. For example, like most people don't drink wine by themselves, right? Most people buy glasses in two. So just naturally, there's going to be at least one person they tell about the glass that they just ordered. Often it's way more than that, right? Because you'll have a party of like 10 people and like everyone, you buy 12 glasses. So now 11 other people just found out about your glass. Like I think having something where it's just like product differentiation, where it's like someone picks up our glass and immediately they're like, whoa, what is this? For example, like ceramics sometimes, not water ceramics, but just like plates. Like people don't actually pick up plates that much. You just put it down. So it's like the feel of the plate is just so much less important than the feel of a wine glass or a feel of like a ceramic cup. So people are not going to lift the plate and be like, whoa, this feels like totally different. They might say it looks different. But like, the look of it is just like that's not a useful thing almost. Like it's like anyone can paint anything anyway. So
it's almost like, in your own mind, and you're doing this organically, or I don't know if it's more, it could be intentional as well, like plotting out the customer journey, right? And getting a sense of, in that person's life, how does this product fit into that life? And how can other people also find out about that product by virtue of that individual who's using it, right?
The other thing I think is that you should just make products that, especially if you're not going like the ad-based route, like you could make like bed sheets and just like pour a lot of ads into it and like hope that that's like going to be one of the major things. But like if you're going to go like more like the organic route, I would kind of recommend having like just something like extremely, extremely unique. Because otherwise it's just like one of like the world doesn't need another bedsheet brand, right? So
right.
That's like another way to probably think about it.
So what I'm taking away, and I appreciate you for a lot of your tips and advice here. You really seem to enjoy going to this organic route, right, when it comes to the strategy with your businesses. And one of the enterprises that seems like has really cropped out organically is this idea of Psalm AI, right, which is sort of your newer focus. Do you think you can tell us just a tiny bit about what you've been working on here?
Yeah, so this is my wine software company. We basically scrape a bunch of wine lists, and then we and cocktail lists and spirits lists and food lists, by the way. But we started on the wine side, but now we do everything. But yeah, we just take all that data in, and then we put it into a portal, and you can search the portal to ask whatever question you want. So for example, if I'm Camus and I'm competing in Silver Oak, I can look at all the restaurants that have Camus but not Silver Oak. Or sorry, you would want to look at the other way. If I'm Camus, I want to look at all the places that have Silver Oak and not Camus, right? Because then that's effectively my target list. I wish people listed what glass they had on their website, because I would love to know every single restaurant that had Zolto and Gabriel and Sophienwald, and we could probably guess which they are, but I would love a nice little like exhaustive list of like all the restaurants that have my competitors. And yeah, I'm gonna be like hitting up that list every single day. So that's the tool that we made for wine brands.
So it's kind of like the ability to have higher quality data, intelligence, and decision making. Would you say that?
It's honestly the only source of data. There's no ones that really does this. It's like, if you wanted to ask what restaurants have this competitor wine to me, like, I mean, we're the main, like, we're used by a third of the US wine industry.
So, I mean, you're going from different industries to different industries, and you're being successful across those industries, whether that's starting with financial services, with hedge funds, and then going more into sort of e-com, right, direct to consumer, going into crowdfunding, going into software. When you're entering a new industry like that, how do you approach it? Is it thinking first about the team? Is it thinking about the problem? What's sort of your approach in entering a new industry like that?
Well, you're giving me a little too much credit. I wouldn't say I was successful in finance, uh, given I kind of blew out of there. And I mean, I mean, I'm happy with how my companies have gone so far, but I think we're having some. I think it's I think there's some.
Okay, well, I mean, you've done 3 million in revenue, right? When it comes to ecom, and I think in the world, if we think about the planet, right? Many people would love to be able to say they worked at a hedge fund in New York City. So I'm just saying, I think those are pretty good accolades. And
No, thank you. I try to be like, I don't want people to think, but yeah. So I think with entrepreneurship, and also like being in a hedge fund is also very different than being an entrepreneur. But I think as an entrepreneur, like, you should just be trying to find product. Like, it's like, number one is product market fit. Number two is how to scale profitably. Like, for example, like, you could find product market fit, but like those customers can all be like poor and not have money, right? Then there's no way to scale profitably, because you can't really, like, there's no lifetime LTV, so then you can't have a CAC, and so then that doesn't really work. So those are like probably the two main things when you're starting a company, to figure out if I have product market fit, like the classic, like, sell. First of all, try to like give the thing away and see if anyone takes it. Okay. Then try to find one person who will pay $1 for it. Okay. And then try to find one person who will pay, a reasonable market price for it. And then,
right.
and then once you could do that, then try to find your first 100 customers. And then, and some markets are so hard to like penetrate that you just can't even scale profitably. But for example, like, one thing we can do in Glasvin is we sell to all the restaurants. So we make money selling to all the restaurants, but then that's a marketing channel, because people go and find and drink out of our glass at a restaurant and later buy it on our website.
Right. So it also sounds, I'd say, like, really being mindful of the business model and sort of the metrics that even go into success, and like, can success be an outcome if I go down this path?
Yeah. That is like a great Elon Musk quote, is success one of the possible outcomes? And you don't want it to be no. You don't want success to not be one of the possible outcomes.
So in looking at this new startup that you're doing, I also saw that you were selected as Forbes 30 under 30 for that as well.
Right. That was unfortunately, I'm 33 now, so
getting old, man.
but yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, yes, that was great.
So just one other quick question here, and then we can begin to wrap up. As you've been building out this, software company, have there been any additional tips or advice that you feel like you could pass on to others, or any lessons that you've learned that you wish you knew earlier in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the best advice is actually just don't it's like, obviously, like, get advice, but it's your job to decide whose advice is good and whose advice is bad. Like, if I asked a bunch of my friends, should I start a wine glass company? They'd be like, no, why the frick would you start a wine glass company? Like, the TAM is weird. Like, it's like, it's just not like what people like. It'd be like, start like a LLM or something, right? So, you're the decision maker at the end. That's like why you're the CEO. If you're starting a company, you're the CEO. But yeah, I think in general, just like, some of the classic ideas I think are really good. Like, fail fast, just ship things. Like, yeah, like, it's like the 80/20 rule. 80/20 rule is so important in startups. Like, like, don't spend the extra energy to like perfect the product. Just ship the product. If it's something goes wrong, fix it. That's a really good idea.
And by 80/20, you mean that by focusing on 20% of your inputs is really going to cause 80% of your outputs, right? So usually if you have like your sales, it's really coming from like 20% of your inventory, right?
That's a really great application of the 80/20 rule. But even like for the startup person, it's like just focus on like don't try to get to 100%. Just try to get to 80%. Like, I don't know, if you go on my website, like Glass.bin, you'll probably notice like the website is not the world's nicest website. It's probably 80% of the nicest website, because that's like the efficient frontier. If we were to try to get it from 80 to 90 or 90 to 100, it would just take a lot more work.
Yeah, diminishing returns.
Exactly. It's a diminishing returns concept. And that applies to so many things. It's like your product design, like your logo, like don't like spend $20,000 on branding. Like that's such a waste of money, at least at the start. Just like literally what we did for our brand was like, it's literally the font is Helvetica. And I just typed in Glasvin and that's our font, and like no one cares. The product is what matters.
Right. What I like about that is it really is very scrappy and sort of like you're bootstrapping in that way, but you can also get really great results at the same time with that attention to detail. And I think one of the things you seem to be very mindful of is your time and the way that you're putting that into these ventures, right? And being very careful of what you're spending time on versus what doesn't need to be improved with that.
Yeah, I mean, time is obviously like the number one resource at the end of the day. So like people ask me like how much money did I invest into my businesses? Like that number is tiny in the grand scheme. Obviously it exists. This is partly why like you don't even need Kickstarter to fund your own business, because like the actual upfront cost to start a business isn't actually that high if you're smart about where you're putting that money. Like I think it took me like, I don't know, $20,000 or something to start Glasvin. Sami, I probably took less. It probably took like 10K or 5K or something like that. It doesn't take a lot of actual dollars. It took me one year to get to like my first sale of Glasvin, 2 years to like profitability. For Sami, I was probably like a year longer than that. So the opportunity cost, basically my time, vastly outstrips the monetary cost.
Well said. Awesome, man. Where can people go to learn more about your work and what you'd like to have them focused on here? Where can they go to learn more about this?
I think for your customer base, please obviously check out my website, glass.vin. Please feel free to reach out to me if, you're going on along the same path. And, especially if you're doing something that's, like in homewares or, whatever you're doing, I'm happy to chat. There could be ways for us to work together as well. We're always looking for brand partnerships. Some people are much better at marketing than I am. By the way, just FYI, like 60% of our sales now is B2B. This is for my my e-commerce business is 60% to restaurants. So yeah, like there could be very complementary brands where they're more DTC and I'm more B2B, and we could maybe have cross-channel partnerships and things like that. So yeah, please feel free to reach out.
Okay, and then also your other site here, somm.ai, SOMM.ai, is that right?
Yes, but that's going to be it's very few people from your listener base, I would believe, would be very interested in that. Maybe if they want to start a SaaS company, please feel free to reach out on that.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. And I have one final question for you, and we can end on this note. We can either end with your favorite book recommendation or a book that you feel like has impacted your life for the positive. It could be a quote that you've heard that you'd like to pass on, either from someone noteworthy or someone, close to you, or just a final word of encouragement for other founders and entrepreneurs in the audience.
Oh, man. You're gonna think I'm like a Luddite. I don't really read books, so like I can't even think of the last book I read. And yeah, quotations. I don't know. I think like it's like, I mean, this is gonna sound so cheesy, but like it's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So that's like the number one issue I think in entrepreneurship is like people just don't do it. Like they don't quit their job. You have to quit your job. Like you can't be doing this super, super hard thing, which is starting your own business. That's like the hardest thing you can do. It's so hard that like now, like whenever I have some other problem, like, oh, my flight's delayed, I'm like, okay, cool. Like not a problem. But you're not going to be able to do that if you have this easy, chill job that's paying you just like money in your bank account every day, every week or whatever. So you got to quit your job. Otherwise, your business is just never going to get the attention it deserves. But also, like I said, with like any decision, any product, you're gonna kind of have to ship it. So yeah. And then I love the term, just like keep it simple, stupid. Like, like it's really funny. It's like I own these two businesses and they're both in the wine industry. So, like everyone's just like, oh, like what are the synergies? Like, what if we try to do this with this and this and that and whatever? And all those ideas really don't go anywhere. What really does work is just selling. Like I have glasses, call up the person, sell the glass. I have a software, call up the person, sell the software. No need to get super complicated. I feel like most businesses are in that framework where the simplest way to success is probably the most likely way to success.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Good luck with your new venture, and thank you for sharing some really transparent advice and tips.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully I can come back in a few years and I haven't gone bankrupt yet.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified Podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of the show. I hope that you took away some valuable lessons when it comes to launching your own business, to stepping into your own lane, to be willing to actually go after something that you're passionate about and turn that passion into profit. A lot of the times it's easier said than done to do something like after your 9-to-5 job, to be willing to put in the 8 to 12 hours right after work and launching and working on that new business idea or that new crowdfunding campaign. A lot of the times it's easier said than done to be willing to spend your nights and your weekends when you could be doing something else, right? You could be going on a date, or you could be spending time with your significant other, or you could be going to the beach, right? Even if it's in, you're in that area here. I'm based in Miami, Florida, so we have a lot of beaches here. You could be doing that. Instead, you're hustling, you're focused, right? You're moving forward in your life, and you're trying to bring something new into the world, whether that's a new product like a gadget or a gizmo, a tabletop game, a card game, maybe a new creative project like a film or a book even. There's so many ways in which you can use crowdfunding to bring and to breathe life into your ideas. So I hope you took away some valuable lessons from this episode. Go and check out the other ones, dude. I got 500 plus episodes, so many incredible founders that have come on this podcast. But if you really want to speed up the process, you're willing to invest a little bit in that, and you want to move forward, and you want to move forward hard, right? You want to smash through your goals, and you're excited to get started, you're rearing to go and check out the link down below and book an individual one-on-one coaching call with me. This is a crowdfunding success coaching call. So whether you're doing a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, WeFunder campaign, GoFundMe, doesn't matter. We can talk about your launch and really how to prep this for success, making sure that you're dotting your I's and you're crossing T's and doing the right things you need to do in order to blow past your funding goal and exceed your wildest expectations. Go and check out that link at crowdcrux.com/coaching. It is one of the best investments which you can make. You can make that back more than 10x when it comes to the launch of your campaign. Go and check out that link at crowdcrux.com/coaching and book your individual one-on-one coaching call with me today at that link. Anyway, man, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Go out there, take some action this week. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right voices and the right people. Get your hands on that information. Start reading, start listening to more shows like this, so that way you can move towards your goal much faster than you ever imagined possible. But hope you enjoyed this one. We got a great episode coming out next week, so stay tuned. My name is Salvador Briggman, and I'll see you next time.